Do you exist? You just clicked on this video, and if you're an average person, you're probably thinking, obviously, I exist. And according to my YouTube analytics, well, now you do, as viewer number 1,400,032 maybe. But that isn't what determines if you actually exist. Neither is your phone number, or your address, or even your birth certificate. Not even your name, the information that tells other people you exist in perception. But what does count as actually proving you exist? Is it matter, the physical evidence? Are you elements and neurons, or electricity mixed with complexity? What about your soul, or the thoughts that you have that seemingly don't align to what your heart or your brain should desire? The question of existence and of consciousness has been around since man has probably ever been here. Formally, who said it first in writing is tricky. The words, "do I exist," technically couldn't have been said until around 1500 AD, because that's when modern English became recognized. But in Hindu writing and Hindu philosophical texts, like the Upanishads, they ask a question known as koam, who am I? Whether the self is illusion, consciousness, or ultimate reality. That traces back to 800 to 500 BC. It's a little tricky. Quickly though, I want to separate existence from consciousness, because those are not the same thing. Harambe, this gorilla, who as far as we know, never did anything morally wrong, exists. Not necessarily physically anymore, not biologically, and not really in a way that a scientist could point to a heartbeat and say, see, look, Harambe, there he is. But he still exists. Right now, a picture formed in your mind the second I said his name. Maybe it was the zoo footage. Maybe it was the memes. There was some really great memes. Or maybe it was just the feeling of remembering 2016. But regardless, something appeared. A concept, a pattern, a mental object. Even if the physical world itself turned out to be a complete illusion, even if matter was somehow unreal, the experience of Harambe still exists inside your consciousness. And that's important, because existence might not require awareness. For example, a rock exists, a star exists, even a dead language exists in a book no one ever reads. But consciousness is stranger. Consciousness is not merely just being there like a rock. It's the possibility that something, somewhere, is actually having a real experience, or that there's someone home. And it's really hard, and we don't actually know where that line begins. For example, does a dog know that it exists? Does a gorilla? Does an AI? Do you actually know that you exist? Or do you only know thoughts are happening? Because the moment you actually try to grab consciousness, like directly, it slips right through your fingers. It's kind of like trying to bite your own teeth. For us now, the rise of AI is rapidly changing this question. If we are only conscious due to the material or material connections tricking us into thinking we are more than matter, what about a computer system tricking AI into believing it's conscious? A real person only understanding the boundaries we set for it. And how do we know we're not in the same position? There's a term, solipsism. Solipsism is this philosophical idea that only one's own mind is actually certain to exist. It's rooted in the Latin phrase solus ipsi, that means only I. But how can I know that your mind is real? I can only truly know that I'm thinking. I can't know that you are thinking. Not know what you are thinking, I just can't know that you are thinking. I can observe some evidences that brain activity is occurring inside your skull, but that's just cells and nerves and electricity. So if I observe a computer with memory, data, wires, so on and so forth, how can I truly see a difference? What makes you exist as a conscious being like me? Dostoevsky said, I tell you solemnly that I have many times tried to become an insect, but I was not equal even to that. I swear, gentlemen, that to be conscious is an illness, a real, thorough-going illness. That was Fyodor Dostoevsky. I cannot pronounce his name. I'm sorry. Okay, but now let's assume our conscious minds actually do exist just because we are thinking. Even if I can't know that you are thinking, I know that I'm thinking. And if you're thinking, then you should know that too. So now the question becomes, from where are we thinking? And how do we actually exist moving forward from here? According to scientific estimates, the brain has around 2.5 petabytes of data storage. Just so you can get a grasp on how much that is, for comparison, that's enough to download the entirety of the Bible about 500 million times, or 390 trillion words total. That's how powerful our brains are. But what if we didn't even have memory? Are you still existing or experiencing anything if you can't remember what happened just a second ago? What about 5 seconds ago? Or 10 minutes? If I cut away the memories of what makes you, one cell at a time, when would you stop existing? So maybe memory isn't it at all. Let's live in the moment. What about fear? I don't have a particular memory moment that makes me scared of death. For most of us, it's still scary. I'm living in the moment, but I don't want that moment to end. I really, truly want to experience the next moment. And if I'm afraid of something, specifically afraid of not existing, then that means I must exist, right? But what if I wasn't afraid of anything? I'm still here, living in this one moment. So it doesn't seem like fear is me or that memory is me. Thought might be me alone, but not anyone else. So what am I really? Where am I really? When am I? Am I? What are you really? And where are you? When are you? Are you at all? What about something like the Matrix? Is what I'm actually perceiving with my vision even real, or my ears, or even my taste? What if the world only actually exists inside of my head? As long as the program's actually good enough, I'd never really be able to know. Unless evidence suggests otherwise, I'll never really know. I'll throw in my own opinion on this for just a second. John Lennox, a Christian theist like myself and theologian that I absolutely love, says we live in a word-based universe based on creation scripture and the science he studies. For example, John 1:1. While I don't agree that we are in a matrix that is made of ones and zeros, I do believe we are in a designed universe of infinite word-based systems. For example, DNA, time, math, atoms are based off the numbers of electrons, and almost all forms of science are a system at their core. I'll be able to go more in depth on the word-based universe in a separate video. But the point is, even if there was a matrix, it's probably not what we think it is. Our body's internal structure work off a system that we don't actually control. You blink and breathe unconsciously. Stepping away from theories, let's get back to some actual science again. Studies show that we can remember and experience things with little to no brain activity. What if the most convincing reality you've ever experienced was one that never existed at all? Not like a movie, not virtual reality, a dream. Because every single night, your brain performs something almost and entirely absolutely absurd. Your brain is able to build entire worlds, environments, with physics, with people, characters, emotions, memories, conversations, sometimes even histories that never happened that you somehow know. And the strangest and most concerning part for me is you usually don't even notice. In dreams, impossible things feel completely and totally reasonable. You can suddenly be 10 years old again, even though you're obviously not. Your childhood home might be connected to a Walmart for some reason. Or a gorilla might start speaking fluent English, explaining how he did nothing wrong. And your brain will just be like, yeah, dude, seems fine. This is real. But while dreaming, the fear is real. The joy you feel is real. The embarrassment you feel is real. This bug I just caught would have felt real, but I'm dreaming. Your heart rate changes. Your body reacts to things. You experience an entire reality generated internally while you're just lying there, unconscious, in a dark room, which to me is incredibly unsettling. Because if the mind can fabricate an entirely believable universe without any external input every single night, then what makes our waking reality any different? And no, this is not me saying nothing is real. Probably, I think, I hope. But it does expose something incredibly important. You never experience reality directly, ever. You only experience a model of reality that your brain takes and puts out for you. Your brain takes in electrical signals, chemical information, pressure waves, photons, and constructs out of all that what you call the world. Ta-da! But technically, color doesn't actually exist the way that we experience it. Sound isn't just little noises that are floating through space. Even solidity is mostly just electromagnetic repulsion between atoms. That's what makes this happen, and I can feel it. Meaning that your conscious experience is less like a camera recording something, and concerningly, it's more like your brain just hallucinating reality in a very stable and useful way, which I don't like. And that sounds ridiculous until you realize there's actually some neuroscientists that will argue this same point. But things actually get weirder because, like dreams, deep meditation, sensory deprivation, or hallucinogenic psychedelics, people often report experiences that feel, quote, more real than ordinary waking life. Not less real. Actually, they feel more real. Under substances like psilocybin or LSD, users describe time stopping or ego dissolving, becoming one with reality itself. Wow. And that sounds either deeply spiritual or exactly what you'd expect from someone who just licked a glowing forest frog, which kind of makes it hard to study some of these things sometimes, I'm sure. Cheers to the scientist. But here's the interesting part. In some psychedelic states, parts of the brain associated with your sense of self actually become less organized, less normal activity, yet subjectively, people often describe heightened awareness. That's backwards. At least intuitively, it seems. We would tend to imagine consciousness like a campfire. More brain activity equals bigger flame. But what if consciousness is less like a fire or a lever pushing more power and more like a filter? Some thinkers, like William James and Aldous Huxley, propose the idea that the brain might not actually create consciousness so much as reduce it. Kind of like a valve, a survival mechanism, filtering out most information so that you can function long enough to get through life, pay your taxes, and avoid walking into traffic. And maybe simply altered states are loosening that filter. Now, is this proven? No, not even close actually. There's currently zero to very little accepted evidence that consciousness even exists independently from the brain. But there's also a problem that nobody has yet to solve. Why does anything feel like anything at all? A neuron firing is a physical action, but the feeling of sadness or the redness that comes from red, the sensation of actually being you, that's different. This is what philosopher David Chalmers called the hard problem of consciousness. Because even if we map every atom in your brain perfectly, we still wouldn't find the actual experience itself. only the mechanisms that are correlated with it. And that's why consciousness feels so mysterious. Because unlike everything else you study, you're trapped inside this one. You can't simply step outside of your own awareness to inspect it. Objectively, the flashlight searching the darkness is also the thing being searched for. So, existing. It might be matter, sorted out in a way that creates you as a person, not just you as a life form. But if that's the case, then why can't we find you? For a long time, people thought that thinking actually came from the heart, not the brain, which, that makes intuitive sense. When you panic, your chest is what tightens, not your head. When you fall in love, your heart is what races, not your cranium. When you grieve, it hurts here. Nobody points to their frontal lobe during a heartbreak. Even Aristotle believed the brain mostly just acted just a cooling system for the blood, which is an incredible reminder, by the way, that being a genius in one century does not guarantee surviving intellectually in the next one. But then came troubling physicians like Galen, and Galen did something incredibly unsettling. He experimented on live pigs. By cutting certain nerves connected to the pig's vocal cords, Galen observed something incredibly twisted and disturbing. The pig remained alive. It struggled, it moved, but it could no longer squeal. Its voice had vanished. Not because the lungs stopped, not because the heart actually failed, but because communication between the brain and the body had been severed, interrupted. And that mattered philosophically for us, because once we understood this, suddenly thought and action no longer appeared to emerge from the heart, but from signals, electrical control. The body began looking less like a spirit-filled object and more like a system, a machine. And over the next 2,000 years, that idea would evolve into one of the biggest questions humanity has ever faced. If changing the brain changes experiences, then what exactly are you? It feels like you exist, but that could just be a bunch of mechanisms. What about your soul? For as far back as we can trace, mankind has believed in the afterlife. And still today, roughly 70% of the world believes in life after death. Now, why is that? Are we all just trying to fool ourselves to feel better? Or are we inclined to truth? What it's like to be a bat. This quote comes from the philosopher Thomas Nagel in his famous 1974 paper, What It's Like to Be a Bat. Now, Nagel wasn't actually trying to understand bats. The bat was a thought experiment. His argument was this: even if science knew every single physical fact about bats, the brain, the nervous system, and echolocation, we still couldn't and would not know what it feels like to be a bat. And maybe that's the thing with consciousness. What if we understand everything scientifically about human experience, but the only way to understand consciousness is to be conscious? Finally, we come to the most famous line on existence ever. I think, therefore I am. This comes from René Descartes. In Latin, the phrase is cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. It appeared in the 1600s as a part of Descartes' attempt to find something that could not possibly be doubted. Imagine doubting literally everything. Your senses could deceive you. Dreams can feel totally and completely real. Other people might be illusions. The physical world might not exist because your brain's tricking you. Even things like mathematics can be manipulated by some powerful deceiver. Descartes pushed skepticism about as far as he could. And then he noticed something. Even if everything we perceive is completely and totally false, the very act of doubting something, or that something is doing the doubting, proves that something is there to do the doubting. Even if mathematics could be manipulated by some powerful god or deceiver, Descartes pushed skepticism about as far as he could. And that's when he noticed something. Even if everything is false, the very act of doubting proves that something is doing the doubting. If he's being deceived, there must be a he to deceive. If he is thinking, there must be a thinker. Therefore, I think, thinking requires a thinker, therefore, I exist. Not necessarily as a body, not necessarily as a human, not necessarily in the physical world, but at a very minimum, a conscious experiencer exists. Descartes did not prove that the external world exists, or that other minds exists, that his body exists, that reality is as it appears. He only believed he had proven the existence of the self as a thinking thing. Most things are known through evidence. Trees, planets, atoms, other people. But your own existence, your own consciousness is different. Before you know anything else, before science, before philosophy, before evidence itself, there's one undeniable fact, that something is having this experience you're having. You may doubt the world, but the doubt itself actually becomes that evidence. As Descartes realized nearly 400 years ago, I think, therefore I am. Hey, if you made it this far in the video, this takes a lot of effort, took me a lot of time to film, and if you enjoy it and actually enjoy videos like this, I would really, really appreciate if you would just subscribe, hit the bell, give me a like, and maybe share the video with a friend that likes to think about things, and then you guys can discuss the video and have some dumb, really drawn out conversation over a campfire about existence.